What other alternative models of schooling are you excited about beyond the ones that you're building? Because you're also intimately familiar with a lot of the projects other people are working on, and you've worked on quite a range of things, obviously charter schools, public schools, private schools, online schools, Montessori schools. What other models do you find particularly interesting?
That's a great question. Well, broadly, I think agency models that give students lots of agency are the future. I think, everybody who has a great life is an agent. People who are passive jump through the hoops. That model is dying, and all the cool jobs are where people take initiative. So I see actually Montessori and Acton and self-directed education, and Prinda. I see all of these as bearing a family resemblance. Often they're exclusive. Montessorians believe they're right, and Acton believes they're right, and the self-directed education believes they're right. And for me, it's all about how can we give a child more agency? And within Montessori, there's some that are more follow the child, some that are more structured. Within Acton, there's some that are more structured, some that are more self-directed education. And for me, I don't have a dogma about this at all. I have seen wonderful education in all of these models, and I think a lot of it is the positive culture. So I would say more than the model is if it's agency-based education, are there warm, positive relationships that are leading to excellence, to individual excellence? And yeah, I think a lot of the structures are actually kind of arbitrary. I think we need to create. I'll give you actually an unusual example. Years ago, I read a book called Lessons from Extraordinary Educators. And it was by somebody who had looked at a school where the cheerleading team made national championship all the time, and the state debate team made state championship all the time, and that kind of thing. He said, clearly not in the water. There's something going on with these coaches, and mostly it was coaches and not actual academic education. But he found a couple of things. He found, on the one hand, the kids felt cared about, so they knew that the coach cared about them. On the other, the coach set very high standards, expectations. We are going to go to state. We are going to go to nationals. And the coach then knew how to coach them to that, knew how to, whether it's debate or cheerleading or football or math competitions, whatever it is, they had the expertise to coach them. But for me, this combination of warm caring on the one hand and very high expectations, that's a general recipe. And I think the agency, one of the reasons I think it was all extracurriculars is it's opt-in, chosen, students have a sense of agency as opposed to a coercive K-12. But I think as we have coaches and mentors who are brilliant at caring and high expectations and then can coach them to those high expectations, I don't care if it happens in Montessori, Acton, self-directed education, or something completely different.
What about models that you don't like or that you're not excited about?
Well, of course, one size fits all standard education. And just to talk a little bit more about that, just in math. So a great math teacher in a public school, 30 students, can kind of do a good job either with the top third, the middle third, or the bottom third. But it's no way that they can do a really great job with the whole range, because kids are across such a huge range. And again, math is the most linear of subjects. There's some kids who can fly through math. I once met a New Jersey State math champion who said he was a behavior problem until in 7th grade, his teacher just put a huge stack of math textbooks on his desk in the back of this classroom, and he just went through like 6 years of math on his own in the back of the classroom. Of course, the wrong thing to do would be to force him. When I was in school, I remember, wanting to do so much more math and teachers constantly slowing me down. And so one size fits all is, especially for math, it's just a terrible thing. People talk about tutoring being so great. And of course, tutoring is great. Why is tutoring so great? Because regular school is so horrible. So for me, the one size fits all education is a crime. Students' minds, interests are so diverse. Part of the reason the agency-based is, if Hannah wants to study history for 6 years, go for it. If she wants to do, 10 years of math in 3 years, go for it. Whatever it is, once we let kids have more agency autonomy with respect to learning goals, and they're in an environment where excellence is expected, the outcomes are so much better. But anytime we have, and it's the system, the requirement system, say, grammar of schooling, Stanford scholars call it. This is 3rd grade math. This is 4th grade science. This is 7th grade history. That grammar of schooling structure that has one expectation for all students, I think, is a crime against children.
How do you think about the difference between a standard of and a culture of excellence versus having subject matter standards, because you're talking about two things that might appear diametrically opposed to the untrained eye.
Well, first of all, again, I think I want to do what's right for that child in front of me, happiness and well-being for that child. And, just in terms of subject matter standards. So it's a wonderful piece by a man named Henrik Carlson on how Mr. Beast learns. Mr. Beast at 12 hated school, and he started focusing on optimizing YouTube videos. Mr. Beast now has 170 million followers. The New York Times only has 9 million. I think his company's worth $1 billion or more. And I think his mom forced him to stay in school, but I think he would say he got nothing out of school. It was all about optimizing his YouTube. So in terms of excellence, Mr. Beast clearly was pursuing excellence with respect to YouTube videos. And both the content and the algorithms, all that, clearly, he knows so much more than I know. But did he pursue excellence in history or language or what? No, who knows what grades? The notion, what grade did Mr. Beast get in 6th grade? Who cares? And that's the thing. Anybody who succeeds in real life, nobody goes back and looks at the report card. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. So yeah, all of that, that's the system demanding something. For me, at the end of the day, I'm an intellectual. There's part of me that would like to force everybody to study things that I think they should study. But the fact is, if somebody is a healthy, happy, successful, good person, I don't care what they studied.
How do you feel about unschooling?
So I'm very sympathetic. I'd say it's an agency-based thing. Oh, again, I emphasize the subculture. So I've known, I described Laura Deming as an unschooler, got into MIT at 14. So I think, but her dad is an incredibly curious, entrepreneurial, interesting human being. So I think that that's why, again, for me, it's not the structure. It's not for me, it's almost like noise. All of these debates, for me, almost all education debates are just noise. Is it Montessori? Is it this or is it that? It's like, okay, do you have a situation where you're pursuing excellence because, pursuing things you love and becoming great at them? And that can be total unschooling. It could be no requirements from parents at all. And I would expect when we look into it, that's, again, just knowing you. I have never met your parents, but I can get a sense for the kinds of conversations your parents had with you and with each other. Yes. And that's what I mean by a subculture, where it's certain kinds of ambient, cultural stuff, absolutely unschool. I unschooled my kids for a year, in some ways 2 years. It's just, of course, they grew up in an intellectual household. Any kind of teaching is an absolute waste of time, gets in their way. None of it. On the other hand, I've seen unschooled kids who were addicted to video games and played nothing but video games for 12 years and had terrible outcomes. So again, I think people get too attached to the apparatus of schooling, not enough to, is this human being developing in a healthy way? And beyond that, the structures are arbitrary.